Okay guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Matt with another Marvel Future Fight video, and if you're enjoying the content, if you could just do us a favour and hit the like and subscribe button, trying to get to 50 subscribers as soon as possible. So if you could do that, you'd be doing us a massive favour, and it also lets YouTube know that you like the content. And anyway, into today's video. So whilst we have the anniversary coming up in a few days time, basically, we're just under a week away now, I looked back at last year's and saw it had been a year since we had Mephisto, and in that time we've had this real change in the meta. The likes of Thanos, Spider-Man, Doctor Doom, Adam Warlock, Emma Frost, really changing the meta for PvP and for PvE. And I thought, it's been 18 months since we got our first tier 3 in Sentry, and we still see him in PvP. We also see the likes of, you can see here my team at the moment is with Doctor Doom and Colossus. But we also see the likes of Molecule Man from the Dark Avengers update that we had 18 months ago. But you don't see any of Knull or Mephisto at all in PvP. You barely see them in PvE. They're not really very good for alliance battle. I don't see anyone using either of them for that. So the question is, we've had the native tier 3 in the game for 18 months now, and basically, what happened? To quote Matt McMuscles. But yeah, what happened to the tier 3? If you have a look at the top PvP teams, I'm having a look in Vibranium because that's where I am. Let's go through the top 10 and have a look here and see what we've got. We've got a lot of the new Thanos, we've got a lot of the new Emma Frost, we've got some Molecule Men, and we've got mostly Adam Warlocks. We still have Colossus because he maintains his value as a support and a buff. But even if we look here in Challenger at the top characters that we can see here, it's a lot of Doom, a lot of Thanos, Spider-Man. Okay, we have one Sentry there, but we very, very rarely see anything outside of the native tier 2s and the tier 1s. We hardly ever see a native tier 3 with the exception of Sentry. You can see here, this is my Mephisto. Built up pretty well. He's got the judgment on him for the elemental damage. Now, he was supposed to be this character who could do both. That was the whole point of his third skill. You could change him over from PvE to PvP. Now, you can see here, I haven't even bothered finishing his gears because pretty much ever since he came out, people thought he was good for a while. You see I've got an energy on him. I think I had a rage on him at one point, but I took that off to give to a better character, or more deserving character, and I never went back because there was never any need to. He just completely fell off almost as soon as he arrived. We got Sentry 18 months ago, we got Knull as a playable character 16 months ago, it was last January, and even though we have the ability to play against them, and they're great as boss characters to fight against, World Boss Legend, it's really fun. You can see here I've only got to stage 19 with Knull, and the same with Mephisto. I don't want to spend crystals where I don't have to. As we all know, I'm a bit of a cheapskate. So I like to try and defeat stage 90, or any stage that I'm up that faces requirements. I like to try and get the 150 and 100 second challenge done. Because my thinking is, if I can't beat those challenges, I'm not going to do very well the next stages anyway. So you can see here, I'm a bit behind on Mephisto, but I've soon catching up to where I am with Knull. Infinity Ultron, I gotta be honest, I barely play. Even if I get him as a boss of the day, I re-roll for Knull or Mephisto. Mostly because with Mephisto, I'm close to getting 50, so I'm close to that level reward, which is the CTP chest. You can see here, I've got male characters from 15 to 19, and then from 10 to 14 is superheroes. So there's not many places to use them outside of stage 9 where there's no requirements, but you want to try and push, you want to try and get the most out of your characters. Certainly I do, which is why I try and push the highest stages that I can with the, you know, the builds and the cards that I have. So taking away my usual team that I use to clear stage 19, looking at the characters that we have available and their supports, each of them pretty much have their own decent support, as native tier 3 should, really. You know, they should be a step above all other characters. That includes all native tier 2. So if we use their own leaderships, then you can see what supports we have, and there's not too many male supports that we can really offer them. Unfortunately, Knull is even worse off because he's a physical character, but at least with Sentry and Mephisto they can use the passive support for Cyclops with his energy attack, and then we can also use Taskmaster for his support passive. So you can see that we can run that team, and I guess it doesn't really matter. That's what normally you can see. I've got pretty much a fire-based team which I use for Human Torch, but we're going to use that on Mephisto now. So we're just going to go into training mode and see if they can do anything. Now, with the meta as it currently stands, there are a lot of characters who've had great reworks in the last... Well, it's probably been the last 24 months, the last 2 years. We've seen absolutely amazing reworks for a bunch of characters, from the Hulks, going all the way through the symbiotes, going right through the Defenders, all the way up to today with, you know, the Hawkeye and the Spider-Man No Way Home. So there's no excuse for native tier 3s not to be the strongest in the game. I mean, that's the whole point. If you look at it from a newcomer's perspective, that should be the pinnacle, that should be the ultimate goal, is to get the tier 3 characters, the real end game results. But as you can see here, we're only on stage 19. Yes, it's the furthest that I've got because I can't beat those 100-second challenges and I don't have the extra characters at the moment. But Mephisto struggles. He really does struggle to get the damage out, and even though he does have the judgment, so he's, you know, he's got the best possible CTP. Okay, it's not reforged, but when you've got characters who are just transcended, like Human Torch, who are already getting into the second phase by now, it's really worrying when you see the lack of damage being done here. And this is the worst test. This is when you know that someone is really not doing very much damage. When you're having to go and do the second phase of Doctor Strange's magic casting, then it's just not good enough. It is really not good enough. The damage isn't there. I don't know if it's the damage, the penetration. I mean, the pierce is the same for all my characters because it's on the card, so that shouldn't make a difference. If Human Torch is good enough to do it, then Mephisto should definitely be good enough to do it. He's just not. And you can see here we're getting down almost 2 minutes now, and there we've gone into his third rage outburst, and that's a sign that he is just not going to do the stage. So that's Mephisto out, unfortunately. Which is a shame, because you think that with his build, with the elemental damage and the judgment, he would be better placed. Knull's even going to have a worse time. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the energy damage, so he's not going to benefit from Cyclops, so we'll give him Venom. They have the team up bonus, which doesn't give him an awful lot, but it's better than nothing. And we see how he does. Now, even though he has an energy, not a rage, and he doesn't benefit from anything elemental, so there's no point in him having a judgment, you can say, well, at least he has a third skill. So, you know, he has 5 or 6, including the tier 3, usable skills, whereas Mephisto technically only has the 4, with the third skill being the one that changes his typing from a PvE to a PvP type damage dealer. And as you can see, despite that, Knull, with that big self-buffing leadership that he has, giving himself a big 60%, still isn't doing anything. And it really begs the question of what happened, what went wrong. I mean, these characters have got their native tier 3, so they have the highest base stats, so they should have the highest base stats. They should have the biggest potential for growth as well. I'm not sure if we're going to ever see uniforms for them, if that will be something that needs to be done to take them up to a place where they belong. But when you see tier 1 characters who can out DPS them in PvE content, provide more utility in both PvE and PvP, and are just outright stronger and more resilient for PvP, you just think, well, what's the point in having it? Is it purely a status thing? If we use a car analogy, are these just fancy cars that don't really do anything but just look nice as a status symbol? I think a lot of people put a lot of time when they first came out. Everyone was rushing when the Dark Avengers Epic Quest came out, and then when Knull finally became playable, and then Mephisto, everyone was rushing to get those bios and to build them up. And ever since then, we've just been silent. Yeah, sure, obviously every month we get new updates, and last 6 months or so you could even say that it's been less than that. We get pretty much weekly updates now, or bi-weekly updates, as opposed to just one big monthly one and then maybe a little drip feed of a couple of things here and there. But Knull, Mephisto, they just don't have any utility. So Sentry is the last bastion really, and he's the only character that you get given to you. So in a way, he's not even the most premium of the three. He's the cheapest, and yeah, his utility is pretty much only in PvP, but at least he's still being used. Whereas the others have been forgotten, almost as if, wow, I mean, Knull has been as forgotten as a symbiote as Carnage, really, and Mephisto is being outclassed by Human Torch in fire types. So I'm not sure if we will see uniforms for them in the near future. I don't know if that's something people would want. And given the fact that we're on 249, the next question is, who's going to be the big 250th character? Are Marvel Future Fight going to make a big deal out of it? And if so, is there any point in them being a native tier 3? I know a lot of people would like to see the likes of Omega Red or Shuma Gorath, especially with the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness update. We know that we're not getting too much for part 1, but in the potential part 2, where we see a legendary battle or maybe a deluxe pack. I know a couple of people, I saw a video earlier today, made a good video arguing why the Doctor Strange should now have a deluxe pack, and that should include Shuma Gorath. It would be interesting to see if they did that, and if so, is there any point making them a native tier 3 when you see the balance of power really still very much lies with the native tier 1 characters for a lot of content, especially PvE. It's mostly the P characters that you see the native tier 2s dominating, with Sentry being the only exception. And as you can see here is Sentry. Yeah, okay, we didn't change over Venom, we could have put Cyclops back in, but that's not going to make too much of a difference, and certainly not enough so that he has any PvE value. We know where he stands in PvP, and that's a fine place for him. I mean, we can't have all characters being meta for all content, but certainly, at least with Sentry, he has retained that value. You can see here he is always on my PvP team whenever he's available. You can see we've got some Odin's Blessings on him, obviously fully maxed out his skills and his type enhancement. Stage 12 Power of Angry Hulk. We've only just got a regular obelisk artifact on him, and then we've got the mighty CTP of regen. So he's very much fully built out. But there's no need to do that when you can use the native tier 2s. And we did see when Infinity Ultron came as a world boss legend, a lot of people thought, oh, will we see him become a new character as a native tier 3? No, we didn't. He got a uniform and he still remains a tier 1. Yeah, his power isn't where we thought it would be given how tough that world boss legend boss battle is, but he's certainly still a decent enough character. And so that begs the question, is there any point building tier 3s? Are they just there for show? Is it just there as a status symbol at the end of the game when there's nothing else to do? Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that, if native tier 3s are, you know, just completely forgotten about now. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care. Bye for now.